This mini module is on reflecting ideas and issues, something we do a lot in coaching because we focus all the intention on the other person and not ourselves. So within this module, we're going to go over sounding board, using their language, getting them to explain words, and neuro-programming linguistics. Just a few different tools in which us as a coach, it really helps us become a better coach for the person talking to us, or to take this coaching approach even better. So first of all, a sounding board. What's a sounding board? A sounding board is someone or something you can have a conversation with, and you are going to be the driver of this conversation. So not you as the coach, but as the person who's talking to you. For you, what's important is that they talk about what's important to them, and they're going to follow that. So what is important for you to do is to be their sounding board and to follow their conversation wherever it's going. Whatever they want you to say, that's what you'll be replying. You are there for them, and it's not you who'll be trying to drive the conversation where you want it to go necessarily. So you are the sounding board, and you're there to listen to them using your deep listening skills and just to kind of hear them out with whatever they want to say. Using their language. Now, as a coach, especially within this coaching approach, we tend to sum up what the other person said. Maybe they'll be talking for about 2 to 3 minutes, and we'll say, okay, so let me just check. What you've just said is you have this issue with this person and this has just happened. Is that right? When we ask this, if we start to change their words when we sum up, they're no longer going to feel like they're responsible for what's being said. It's kind of like now it's in your hands as a coach and no longer in theirs. So first of all, it's extremely, extremely important to use their own language. Not only because of that, because to them, the language that they used makes sense to them. It doesn't have to make sense to you. If they want to use certain words to talk about certain things, if you just bounce those words back to them, it makes sense for them. For them, those words have a particular meaning in that particular place, within that particular context. And if you leave it within it and keep using it, then it's perfect. You can have a good conversation with them and you're just reflecting this back to them. And it also makes them responsible for what they say. Because when you keep just reflecting back their words to them, they're going to be a bit more conscious about what they're kind of discussing. And this is where we're going to go to the next point, is explaining words. For example, if someone comes up to you and says, at the moment I just feel stressed. You can say to them, what do you mean by stressed? Because maybe for some people it's, physically I feel really bad and I can't think, or something like this. And maybe for other people it's just, I'm a bit uncertain on what's going to currently happen, or maybe people have different versions of what being stressed is. Or if someone says, I don't feel confident, ask them, what do you mean by confident? Or to you, what does not being confident mean in this situation? Or something like this. When you get them to explain their words, maybe they're going to use these words, they're going to use metaphors or something like that just because it comes out of their head. But if you pause and get them to explain what it is, you're reflecting their ideas back to them, you're reflecting the words back to them, and they can think about it a lot more and actually understand themselves what they meant, because maybe they don't. So that's with explaining their words. And now NPL. NPL is just a nice fancy way of saying the way we kind of receive information and we try to compute it. So people have different preferences. Some people like to hear things, some people like to see things, some people prefer to do things to learn, etc. We have these different kinds of preferences. And because people have different kinds of preferences, as a coach, if you're going to reflect something to them, you have to maybe try to understand what is their preference. When someone's talking to you, if they say, yeah, I see what you mean, but if you look at it this way, this means that maybe they prefer a visual way of discussion. And if they do prefer a visual discussion, then that's the kind of way you should talk to them. You should say, okay, I see what you mean, and you've looked in that direction, but have you tried to see this kind of portrait of what they're doing over here, etc. If you try to use lots of this kind of visual language when you're discussing with them, they're going to react really well with it. If it's more, let's say, a kind of audio one of, yeah, I hear you out, but I don't really agree with that idea. Here, because we're saying I hear you, you kind of see that they're more towards this audio dimension. So you can kind of reflect that back to them, and you'll be making more of this connection. And the very last thing is, on top of all this stuff, you can also use body language. If you see the person in front of you is very much like this and they're talking like this, then you should reply the same way. If you can see they're extremely dynamic and like this, reply to them exactly the same way. If they feel like laying down, lay down as well. Whatever they're doing, if you mirror their body language, if you mirror their learning preference, you start to mirror their words and everything that they're currently doing, they're going to feel so comfortable. They're going to feel as if they're having a conversation with their deeper self, and they're going to be able to open up a lot more and have that space to be able to think and to develop. So this is how to reflect people's ideas and how to reflect their issues and why it's really important.